disappeared in the direction of our classroom. I stood there, thinking that any second she would turn around and wait for me. She didn't. "Izzy, what are you still doing here?" Mr. Mackenzie sounded irritated. "Daydreaming in the corridor. It's already gone 9:05 a.m. Get a move on." We had double maths first with Mr. Karuna, who was, as always, striding backwards and forwards at the front of the classroom with a dazed expression on his face. He looked as though, in his thoughts, he was somewhere far better. I liked him a lot. He was kind and funny, even if he wasn't always great at explaining things. Today, his classroom was horribly hot, and Jonah and Dave were sniggering about something in the corner. I would put money on them having turned up the radiators just for a laugh. It was exactly the sort of thing that they would find hilarious. Someone dropped a book on the floor, and Mr. Karuna was brought back to reality. He started talking about the value of X, but because of the heat and the fact that I wasn't very interested in algebra, my fingers lost their grip, my pen began to slip, and my eyes grew heavy. I rested my head in my hands and pressed my knuckles against my eyelids, thinking that the pressure might help me stay awake. Despite my best efforts, I found myself drifting. A silhouette appeared, the flicker of a shadow in a swirl of smoke. And then the awful crawling began in the pit of my stomach. "Izzy! Oi! He's going to notice!" Lou's prod jolted me awake. "Can't believe you fell asleep. What's wrong with you?" "I don't know." "Lou?" "What?" Her eyebrows were raised, and she looked annoyed. But I carried on. I had to tell somebody. When Mr. Karuna turned to write something on the board, I whispered, "I had the most horrible nightmare last night. One I never want to have again. There was a man, a shadow man. He was all black. I couldn't see his face or anything. He came out of a cloud of smoke and he was shouting at me. I was so scared." I expected her to be shocked, but she rolled her eyes again, and I noticed flecks of mascara on her eyelids, like two miniature feathery fans. "What are you banging on about now, Izzy?" she whispered back. "You're such a weirdo. You've been so different ever since." She tailed off and had the decency to look guilty for a moment, before turning to her equations again. Mr. Karuna tapped me gently on the arm as I was walking out of the classroom at the end of the lesson. "Izzy," he said, "I just wanted to tell you how sorry I am for what happened to you. I also wanted to let you know, as your head of year, that we're going to do everything we can to support you. I hope you feel you can come to me if you need help with managing homework or anything else. You know, of course, that we have Mrs. Tompkinson, the school counsellor, if you wanted to arrange a visit to—" "I'm all right," I said abruptly, and immediately felt bad. I knew he'd meant well. "Thank you," I managed finally, before shuffling off. But I wasn't fine when I got back to our form room for our last lesson to find Frank the Skank sitting next to me in Lou's usual seat. His dark fringe fell into his eyes, but I could see that he was trying to avoid my gaze. "What are you doing here?" I asked him. "She wanted to swap. I said I didn't mind," he stammered, glancing over at Lou, who was settling herself into a seat at the front of the class, next to Jemima. He brushed his fringe out of his eyes, still avoiding my gaze, taking ages picking up the pen he'd dropped on the floor. The shock rolled over me in waves. Lou was also being careful not to look at me, but I knew she realised I'd just found out what she'd done.